So what comes to your mind when you read those words, sacred, feminine, leadership? They are very powerful words, and it seems that everyone has a different connotation, a different experience, a different definition of those words. And that is why I've carefully worded this episode of Creatrix Conversations, because I want to share my 4 pillars of my sacred feminine leadership and express and define what that means to me. And in sharing this, I do believe that we are all being called to step onto this path of sacred feminine leadership. And yet it is going to mean something different for everyone. It's going to look different for everyone. And I want to be clear that in this respect, when I talk about leadership, I am not only speaking to women that are entrepreneurs, business owners, even though, yes, I am a business coach and a marketing consultant, as well as a sacred space holder and a spiritual life coach. But what I mean is that all of us are leaders of our own lives and stepping into our own version and expression of sacred feminine leadership in our own lives, in our families, in our communities. So this is something that is very unique and powerful to everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. Creatrix Conversations is my weekly broadcast of all things mindset, marketing, and magic. My name is Flora Ware. I am a spiritual life and business coach and moon circle priestess. And I'm here live every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific. If you are so inspired by today's episode, please hit share and share this with your friends so that these Creatrix Conversations can reach more ears. Good morning to those watching live. So as I get started, I first want to share my definitions of these 3 potent words. Sacred, for me, means serving life. At its simplest, that is what sacred means to me. That something sacred is something that is serving life. And whether we're talking about a sacred experience or a sacred spot, a location, in the world, whatever, something sacred is something that serves life, not destroys or not erodes life. So when that is what it means for me in how I serve, I am serving life in a sacred way. Feminine. What feminine means to me, and more, and I think as a society, we're having more conversations around gender identity, which is a really important conversation to be having. And so our gender is self-identified, right? Our gender does not always match with our biological sex. For me, it does. I am a cisgendered woman and I identify as feminine. So for me, feminine is a self-identification with the divine feminine aspects. So there's, again, a different interpretation for different people. But for me, I identify as feminine. And so how I express myself, how I live my life, how I run my business, I aim for it to be in a sacred and feminine way. And thirdly, leadership. I'm really curious, what does leadership mean for you? I'd love to hear it in the comments, because leadership can really have a lot of different meanings and definitions for people. For me, I think of words like initiator, trailblazer. A leader is someone that goes first. A leader is someone who empowers others. Doesn't just boss them around or shout directions, right? Empowers other. A true leader creates other leaders. And in this, I am I am stepping more into this version of leadership in my business, because today's episode is in support of my Moon Magic Circle Leaders, which is an upcoming Sacred Circle Facilitator training. And I am literally now training other circle leaders. And for me, that's a really beautiful evolution in my leadership, to be now turning around. As I have been doing in other ways with my life and business coaching, but now I am literally as a leader, as a circle leader, training other leaders. So I'll be talking more about the Moon Magic Circle Leaders program at the end of this broadcast, but we are getting started on the full moon, Monday, September 24th. So it's coming up. So if there's a calling in your soul to lead sacred circle experiences, I encourage you to put in your application. Oh, good. I want to hear this. Sonia has shared that she thinks a leader is really about courageous truth, sharing and being aware and mindful of what the collective and community needs. Yes, I love that definition. Thank you for sharing that, Sonia. And that is a perfect segue for me to now share the 4 pillars of my sacred feminine leadership, because the first pillar for me is courage. Thank you. Courage. To be a leader, you need courage, truly. Or as women, what I often joke and like to call your brass ovaries, right? It's where we get our courage. It really takes courage to know your truth, to forge your path, and to follow it. Because let's be honest, change and growth triggers a lot of people. So your growth and you changing is going to trigger the people around you. And sometimes in very overt and obvious ways, and in many little subtle ways. Unfortunately, the people around you will try to hem you in, to hold you back, to discourage you, perhaps. And so it really takes courage to lead. And in that, a lot of our own fears and self-doubts come up, right? Who am I to think that I can do this? That classic imposter syndrome, as they call it. Or being afraid of really putting yourself out there, being visible, being seen, being known, being heard. This is especially true for women. So it takes a lot of courage. And in that, your desire for whatever it is that you're creating or wanting to achieve, whatever you're wanting to do, your desire needs to be bigger than your fear for you to continue to move forward. When you have courage, and when you know that what you're doing is, like you shared, Sonia, it's for the greater good. It's for something bigger than you. It's for your community. It's for the world. Then you are more quick to pick yourself up when you do inevitably stumble or fall or get held back by that fear, by your self-doubt. So find your courage. That is the first pillar of my sacred feminine leadership. And the second pillar is vision. To be a leader, you must also have a vision. Or you could also call this values, knowing what your values are. You must be really clear on what your vision is, what your values are. Some people call this your big why, right? Knowing what your big why is. Why are you doing what you're doing? It's and if you are in business, to use this as an example, on the surface, your why could be, well, I want to work for myself and I want to make enough money to pay the bills, right? And if that's where you're setting the bar, then that's probably where you're going to be achieving, right? But is that really it? Is that the extent of your vision? I bet that it's not. You might actually be afraid to admit that you have a much bigger vision. That for you, it is to contribute to the healing of the world. For me, one of my biggest values is sisterhood, which for any of you who have been in my world for a while, that's pretty clear. And why I'm passionate about sisterhood is that one of my values, part of my vision, is that my experiences, my work, are helping women to heal the wounds of patriarchy and to understand the ways that we are complicit in our own oppression. I believe that patriarchy we can't dismantle the patriarchy from outside of ourselves. We must heal the wounds of patriarchy from within ourselves. And one of the best ways that I know of and that I have personally experienced is through the medicine of circle and intentional sisterhood. So you see how that's a much deeper why and a bigger vision than just saying, oh, I want to create circles so that women have a nice experience every new moon or every full moon, right? So that is why vision and values is the second pillar of my sacred feminine leadership. The third pillar is, for me, inclusion. This is a really important one for me. And like I said, these are my 4 pillars. Not everyone's going to have these same values. Inclusion, it means so much to me. It means creating a platform, creating a space for all voices. And, you know, I'm talking about racial diversity, gender identity. Trans women are welcome in my sisterhood group. Trans women are welcome. It means different socioeconomic statuses. It means understanding physical ableism, and even for me also, it's very important that I'm mindful of not being North American centric in my views of the world. I truly value a global perspective, and it's one of my biggest joys that my Facebook group, Awaken the Goddess Within, has women from all over the world. Because I want to be mindful that when I'm talking and sharing about things, that I'm not only coming from my perspective as a white North American cisgendered woman, right? So I encourage you, especially if, like me, you are a white spiritual woman, and so you are part of the dominant paradigm that we are working to shift. But look at how inclusive are your programs really? How inclusive are they really? Can you do more to feature women of color, to open up discussions so that there's more space for different faiths, right? Because I think we have all been coming to realize that even within the spiritual industry, if you will, if the new age world is still unfortunately built on a lot of oppressive structures. So I truly believe, and I can't remember now who originally said this, but none of us are free until we are all free. And so inclusion is a strong value of mine, diversity, and that is one of my pillars of sacred feminine leadership. And finally, the fourth pillar of my sacred feminine leadership is activism. And again, I realize this can be a hot button word. Not everyone wants to be an activist. And by this, I don't necessarily mean political, although it does often mean something political. But as a sacred feminine leader, you are a sacred protectress of something. There is something that you're wanting to protect. It could be around healing. It could be around ancient medicine ways. It could be around something. What is it you are taking a stand for? Right? That is activism. Not what are you against? What are you for? And again, looking at the third pillar that I spoke about, inclusion, if you in fact take a good look at your programs or what you're doing or where you live and perhaps where you live and who you're connecting with, and you realize, oh, I am only serving white middle class women. Is there something from a charitable angle, from a philanthropic angle, so that you can in fact use your work for a greater good as an activist in a bigger way? Could you donate partial proceeds to a global organization or to a local organization that is helping is helping poverty, is helping hunger, is helping literacy, something around health, whatever it is that you're passionate for, right? You are an activist for something. So recognize that and take a stand for something and channel your time, your energy. Maybe it's not money, but maybe you have time to volunteer, whatever it is. For me, that is an important piece of my spirituality, is activism in the world. So, to recap, the 4 pillars of my sacred feminine leadership are courage, vision, inclusion, and activism. And if any of these have really inspired you or a light bulb's gone off, I would love to hear from you. Share in the comments, or you can reach out to me privately, because I know that whenever I bring up these conversations, it does bring up things for other women where they realize, I am missing that piece, and that's important to me. Especially as entrepreneurs now, and now I am speaking to the entrepreneurs, but especially as entrepreneurs, I believe our businesses are an outward expression of our spirituality. They are our values made manifest in the world. And if you don't have a business, if you're not an entrepreneur, like I said, you can be a stay-at-home mom and be a sacred feminine leader. My goodness, you are raising the next generation of visionaries. Your work is important. So are you in alignment? This is really for everyone. Is your life in alignment with your values, with the vision that you are holding for the future of the world? And it's important for us to ask these big questions. And so, if you are feeling called, inspired to be more of a sacred feminine leader, and you are desiring to begin to lead circle experiences, or maybe you have already been hosting circles and gatherings, but you want more training and more hands-on experience so that you can get the skills and the confidence to be a circle leader, I invite you to check out my Moon Magic Circle Leaders training program. We start on Monday, September 24th, in just under 2 weeks, and it runs from full moon to full moon. It's a 1-month immersion, September 24th to October 24th. And what you're going to receive from this training is in-depth training on sacred facilitation skills and tools. You're going to learn opening prayers, closing prayers, rituals, lots of rituals, and songs and chants, so that you have so much more in your priestess toolkit for organizing events. We're going to deep dive into themes that you can use to deepen the experience of your circles, and really this is also going to be a space for us to discuss feminine leadership and also the responsibilities that are inherent when you become a sacred space holder for women to heal the wounds of the feminine. Because I don't want anyone to be blindsided by the fact that it ain't all flower crowns and womb hugs when you bring women together. When you bring women together, there are deep wounds to be healed, and there are responsibilities as the focalizer for those experiences and as the leader. So that's going to be a big part of our discussion as well. So it's going to be a lot of hands-on practical training and experience, as well as a space to dive into the deeper etheric and energetic responsibilities and aspects of being a circle leader. So applications are still open. We get started in 2 weeks. I invite you to check that out if there is truly a calling for you to step into this more, whether you are planning to do this locally and in person or virtually. We're going to be talking about the hows and the whats with both in-person and virtual circles. And this can be used for retreats as well, for anyone that is wanting to design retreats and sacred healing experiences, or for simply evening circles, whatever it is that you envision. So I'll drop the link in the comments so you can check that out. You can submit your application. And if looking at the info page and watching the video on there that I have, if you still have questions, please feel free to reach out to me, because I love connecting with women in my community, and I want to answer your questions and so that you can really see and feel into if this is the right facilitation training for you and for what you're wanting to do. So again, if you've been inspired by this Creatrix Conversations, I encourage you to hit share and share this with your friends so that more of us can start having this conversation around what sacred feminine leadership means for all of us, what it looks like, and how we are embodying this in our work and in our lives and in our communities. Thank you so much for watching. I so appreciate your presence here. Have a magical day, and I'll be back next Tuesday at 10 with another episode of Creatrix Conversations. Bye for now.